I can already see the comments now. RC, they don't matter. It's the preseason. Who cares? Well, I think they're a little bit fun. So in today's video, we will discuss some early preseason bowl projections for your Texas Tech Red Raiders, as well as some of the latest happenings in fall camp, some standouts, and much, much more. And again, I can already see the comments here, people. Why are we talking about this? Talk about something else. Well, we'll talk about plenty. I can promise you that. And if you want to stay in the know on all things Texas Tech football all year long, like the video. But before we even talk about football, right, let's give a huge shout out to a Texas Tech men's basketball player. That guy has not even played a single second in the Scarlet and Black in terms of an actual regular season game, but he is a Red Raider. And his name is Christian Anderson. He helped lead Germany to a U18 Euro Basket championship, scoring 31 points against Serbia in the championship game. Shout out to him. Just phenomenal to watch. We've talked about him here multiple times on the channel for Texas Tech men's basketball and how he just kind of reminds me of Trey Burke. He will be an integral part not only of the Red Raiders roster in 2024, 2025, but also beyond. I truly believe he is going to be the starting point guard for the Red Raiders in 2025, 2026. But let's jump into football now because, well, there's a lot to discuss. Okay, we know who number 3 is going to be, who earned that number, because in the Joey McGuire era, number 3 is a sacred number of sorts. And Bryce Ramirez on the defensive side, we know he is going to wear number 3, and rightfully so after everything he's been through in terms of that gruesome leg injury, fighting his way back and be an integral part of the leadership on this team. But on the offensive side, it's Josh Kelly. And Josh Kelly is a Washington State transfer who has absolutely stood out and then some. Not only in spring camp, but also in fall. Just early on in fall, I get it, only about 5 days in, but he has had a great camp so far. And for those that don't know, last year for the Cougars up in Pullman, where Texas Tech will actually play in week number 2 of the season, Josh Kelly last year had 61 catches, 923 yards, and 8 touchdowns. I've had multiple people at Texas Tech fall camp text me saying that, RC, I see what you saw in Josh Kelly when the Red Raiders landed him in the portal. And again, this is not me bragging in terms of me saying that I thought Josh Kelly would be the wide receiver 1 for Texas Tech. I thought he was going to be that guy and then some. But him to prove it right away and really have people that were not naysayers or anything like that, but more so, I'll believe it when I see it, saying these type of things only 4 or 5 practices in tells you the kind of talent that Josh Kelly is. And Baron Morton himself has said, hey, when Josh Kelly's down there, I basically just throw it to him, right? He's that kind of talent. I think he has the talent to be a top 5, top 7 type wide receiver in the Big 12 this year. And for him to be this good this early on, again, we're just talking about them wearing pads twice. But there is a rapport there with number 2 and number 3 for the Red Raiders on the offensive side of the ball. And that is huge because Josh Kelly is leaps and bounds better than any wide receiver Texas Tech had last year on their roster. And then you've got an improved Coy Aiken. You've got Micah Hudson coming in, Caleb Payday Douglas, but Josh Kelly has been the standout in that group so far. All right, on the defensive side, and we'll transition back to the offense here in just a second, but on the defensive side, Jayden Cofield has been the guy that has stood out on the interior of that Texas Tech defensive line. Remember, you're trying to replace 2 of the best defensive tackles really in Texas Tech program history, and Tony Bradford and Jalen Hutchins. I mean, Boog was phenomenal, right? You're not going to get a guy that individually replaces even one of those guys, right? This is going to be a group effort. And Joey McGuire has said so himself, saying that there will be 6-7 guys in the defensive line rotation for the Red Raiders. I think Jayden Cofield has the chance to be the best of the bunch. Again, he is a guy that is absolutely spectacular on the interior of that defensive line with his hands and his strength. That's where he's really stood out in terms of his tape that you've seen really at the high school level. He hasn't gotten much run at the college level. But I do think that there is a chance that he's in that rotation and then he starts learning a little bit more of what these offenses are trying to do to really open up some gaps in the run game, keep their quarterback upright. But once he learns a little bit of those intricacies, right, I think he has a chance to really propel up and get more reps and snaps on the Texas Tech defensive line. He just screams of a guy that Tim DeRuyter loves right front and center in that defensive line. So that's another name that has stood out in camp and a name to monitor all the way to August 31st and really throughout the year for Texas Tech. Another name that really has stood out and then some just because he does not look like a true freshman, people. He really doesn't. It's Cam Dickey. He could very well win RB2 outright as a true freshman and be the backup to Taj Brooks. In fact, right now, I think there's a pretty damn good chance that he does. And that's not anything indicative of Cameron Valdez. It's more so Cam Dickey coming in there and just taking that role and running with it. And don't believe me, Texas Tech Twitter, well, they posted on their football account, obviously, that Cam Dickey hit 20.9 miles an hour at 215. They took it to the house in terms of a 35-plus yard. It looked like it was between the 35, 40-yard line. Hard to tell from the distance aspect of it. But he took a halfback screen to the house, and this is a guy that has come in and really stood out because of, well, have you seen the dude's biceps? I mean, my goodness. They're literally as big as my waist. It's actually frightening. But he stood out in pass pro, in catching the football between the tackles, getting outside, doing the right things each and every play. And that's something to be said as a true freshman doing that, right? There's a grace period you give some of these guys to learn the offense, to learn what it's like to be a college player, so on and so forth, right? But it seems like Cam Dickey is really taking this opportunity and, well, sorry for the pun here, people. It's right there. You know what I'm going to say. Running with it. That was bad. That was bad. 3 out of 10. I'll call myself out on that. That's on me. I can take that. But before we get into the preseason bowl projections, and listen, I know what y'all are going to say down in the comments. I understand, but I think it's really interesting to see what national media outlets are saying and think about the Red Raiders going into the 2024 season. Before we get into that, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. And hey, if you don't mind, tell about 5, 10 of your friends that are Texas Tech fans about the podcast, right? Word of mouth helps a lot, and so does liking the video. So if you want to be a part of the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube and the most interactive, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. And while you're at it, tell a few of your friends as well. All right, preseason bowl projections. This is from 4 sites that I could find, and a couple people actually sent me these and wanted my thoughts on them. We've got one from 247 Sports, College Football News, Athlon Sports, and Sporting News. Now, a lot of these outlets actually have the Red Raiders going to the same bowl, and that bowl is the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. 247 Sports, College Football News, and Athlon Sports all have the Red Raiders out in the desert playing in, I believe it's Scottsdale, Phoenix area, whatever. I don't know where that stadium is. The Big Toaster, the one that Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl in, right? That's where they have the Red Raiders playing. Now, 2 outlets have the Red Raiders playing the Minnesota Gophers, Golden Gophers to be more specific. That would be a Big 10 and Big 12 matchup. That's what the Guaranteed Rate Bowl presents. Now, the other one, 247 Sports, actually has the Red Raiders in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl facing off against Rutgers. And I'm going to be honest with you, Rutgers and Texas Tech are kind of in that same category, in my opinion, and hear me out before you get defensive here. Go look at Rutgers' schedule. That thing is easy as it gets for a Power 4 conference team, period. And Texas Tech is right up there too. You think about it, Texas Tech's most difficult games are what? At Oklahoma State, at Arizona, maybe at Iowa State. One of those 3, right? Rutgers, it's right up there too. I mean, Texas Tech plays 4 of the bottom 6 projected teams in the Big 12 according to odds at FanDuel, Caesars, DraftKings, doesn't matter. Go look at it, right? So those are 2 interesting teams to be paired up against, right? The other outlet, Sporting News, has the Red Raiders in the Surf Pro First Responders Bowl facing off against Navy. That would be an interesting matchup. But I think if we're being honest here, Texas Tech has a chance with this schedule to be much better than this. Now, a lot has to go their way. Health is obviously the most important aspect of this and keeping Baron Morton upright. But I did think it was interesting to see where some of these national media outlets have the Red Raiders. And for those that are wondering, the guaranteed rate bowl basically means if you take one team from the Big 12, that's the automatic qualifier into the college football playoff, and no other Big 12 team makes the playoff, so just one. Basically, that means Texas Tech would finish about fifth-ish in the Big 12. It's kind of what it means, unless another bowl, goes out and picks one of those bigger names in terms of that finish behind them potentially, right? So that's kind of where it would be in terms of where would Texas Tech be seated or finish in the Big 12 if they were to get the guaranteed rate bowl. It'd be in that fifth-ish range because, again, big names sometimes go ahead and certain bowls get to pick who they want in there. All right. Again, some standouts. Once again, Josh Kelly standing out. You've got Cam Dickey. Those two on the offensive side are the two that I just received text the most about from people with boots on the ground out in the 806. And then on the defensive side, a lot of guys in the secondary are standing out. If you want to go check out those names, go check out the previous video. And then on the interior of the defensive line, Jayden Cofield is the name that you should know. And if you haven't already, like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to stay in the know on all things Texas Tech football all year long. And hey, tell your friends about it. Let's help grow the channel, make it more interactive. We're going to be doing live streams, daily videos, and much, much more for you during the football season. And oh, by the way, we'll have a Texas Tech great on here when it comes to the long form podcast. We'll see Lyle here in just a couple of weeks. We're already talking about, scheduling it out and making sure y'all get the information y'all need. So again, like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to stay in the know on all things Texas Tech football all year long right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.